Welcome to my first video, tutorial, advice, tips, whatever you want to call it. So I suppose we just get into it now. This is a photograph I took in a village close to where I live. I live in UK in the southwest. And in fact, I'll just show you briefly here. This is the. I zoom in here. That's blue dot is where I am or where I live at the moment. And if I zoom in here, the village where the photograph was taken is called Beer. So let me put my satellite on and we can zoom in and have a look at the location, just to show. So there is the beach there, and if you look, you'll see there's some boats on the beach. In fact, we can probably zoom in and get a street view here. Let's try. Yeah, let's turn around, and as you can see, there are some boats here. They're in a different position in the street view map, and for the photograph, they're all nicely lined up for me there. So what I did is I took 3 different photographs, bracketed. Let's have a look at the photographs here. But I used my Nikon D500 and a Sigma 10 to 20mm lens. So I actually popped the ISO up a bit here. You can see the aperture is, well, for a wide angle, it's quite wide open, but it was quite dark. If I remember what time it was, yeah, 5:30. So it was getting a bit dark. I think the sun had set, or yeah, well, obviously it was just setting in the background. So I had to pop up the ISO. But these days, these modern cameras can handle it fantastically. I mean, even if you just zoom here, then the noise is it's there, but easily fixable in Lightroom, which we'll do later. Okay, so right, so I took three photographs. Let me put the details back up here. It was the normal one, and I took 2 stops under, and you can see that's popped down to 1/400th of a second, and 1 overexposed, which is, no, sorry, excuse me, that's the overexposed one, and that's at 1/25th of a second. Again, ideally it's a bit slow for a handheld shot. I didn't have my tripod on me, but again, these modern cameras are fantastic at handling slow shutter speed and keeping your images sharp. And so, I mean, if I zoom in here, you can see it's a pretty good job, but ideally I should have had my tripod on me. So there you go. Right, so what I did is obviously I selected all 3 photographs, I right-clicked, and I merged them into HDR. Now, I must point out at this point that this guide is for intermediate photographers and Lightroom users. I probably will do some beginner stuff later down the line, but I guess it's people that already know Lightroom and just want to learn a bit more. Basically, I've been using Lightroom for, well, several years now, and Photoshop, and I just want to pass on my knowledge to some other people, and so they can get the benefit, or learn a bit, or learn nothing, or whatever. So anyway, I've already done this, so I'm going to cancel that. So there is the merged photograph. So this contains all the highlights, shadows, exposure of all the of all those 3 photographs. This is the merged HDR image, so to speak. So now we have to edit it. Now, first things first, I always try to make sure, or don't try, I always make sure that my horizons are straight. It's a little bit of a, yeah, it's you've got to do it. And this one looks pretty straight. Yeah, you can, by the way, you can do that. You can press your um, crop tool, and when you rotate or move your image, you'll see the grid lines come up, which will help you to guide it. I think this needs just a slight movement to the left. Oh, yeah, there. Mm, See, I'm probably a bit anal about it, but it's moved slightly, so that should be as straight as you can get it, or close enough anyway. Now, the next thing I like to do is look at my, well, I used to look at my white balance, but now these days, because the latest version of Lightroom, um, the auto button does a fantastic job these days. So now I I just press the auto button, and that kind of gives us a nice pop boost. Um, it looks at the exposure, the contrast, the highlights, the shadows, the whites and blacks. Now, um, these are your main global adjustments. Okay, your exposure obviously is going to exposure. And one thing about your merged HDR images, exposure will go up to 10. Okay, so you can have it black or white. I'm not really sure why it does that, but I suppose it just gives you some more information. If we go back to what it was, there you are, but slightly decreased it when I pressed auto. Contrast, I'm going to leave it. I'm quite happy with the contrast. The shadows, the highlights. Okay, 9 times out of 10 in a photograph, I go all the way down. Now, and the reason for that is because of the sky. If you look at the highlights at the default level, and if I just pop them down, detail in the sky. Shadows, I used to be guilty of doing that. Okay, some people do, some people like it, but I think that 100% shadows makes the image a little bit what shall I call it, HDR-y, just a bit it's a bit too much. It's a bit fake looking. So I certainly do want to put shadows in there, that's for sure. So I think in this case, maybe up to 60. Yeah, that looks good enough for me. The whites and blacks I'm not going to touch because I'll give you a idea of if you hold the Alt button down and press your mouse and you move your slider up and down, you will see when the white clipping starts, and it starts around the 27, 25, 27 mark. But I don't know. I think that the auto button does such a good job at clipping these days that I'm quite happy with just leaving it. If it looked bad, I would change it, but I'm very happy with the way things look. So we've done the global adjustments, and we've done the horizon straightening. Now I want to look at the white balance, and there are a couple ways to do this. You have your default settings down here, so you can auto and have a look. It's made it a bit colder or bluer, which I don't want. I want to warm this image up a bit. So let's go back to the as shot settings. I think what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to look for a neutral area of the photograph and base my white balance off that. And I can see this boat here. If I zoom in, it's a nice neutral grey color. So I'm going to use my white balance selector tool and click on this neutral grey target here and see what happens. Yeah, it's made it. Let's zoom back out again. It's definitely warmed it up, but I'm not happy with the tint. It's too green, so we're just going to try again. There you go. Now looking at those settings, maybe it's a bit on the magenta side, but let's say I'm quite happy with the warmth. Maybe I'm going to just take that down to 10,000 and maybe the tint 5,000. So there we go. And if we look what we've done so far, just a few clicks, that's the image before, and that's the image after. Now, time to crop. There's a lot of controversy about cropping images. Well, I mean, there shouldn't be really. You know, you have more than enough megapixels in modern cameras to crop post production. There's no problem whatsoever. Obviously, if you're gonna crop down to that side, you're gonna lose all your resolution. It's going to be completely pointless. Maybe on a phone or something you might get away with it, but if you want some nice prints, you can crop. Of course you can crop. It's up to you what you do. Don't listen to anybody that tells you that cropping is for amateurs. Just crop. It's your camera. It's your Lightroom. It's you just do what you want. Okay. So let's now modern screens are wide these days. It depends what you want to do. In this case, probably because I'm going to share the image on Facebook or or on. I'll probably go for the widescreen option. If I was going to print it, I would either probably do a 5:7 or something, but I'm going to go for the widescreen option here and crop it down to 16.9 or 16:9, I should say. Now, what I like to do when I'm cropping, I don't know if you can see when you've got the crop tool on, there are lines, your rule of third lines. So I like to put my horizon on the rule of third line. It could be the bottom or top line. It depends whether I want the focus to be on the foreground or on the sky. Obviously, the sky is, and the boats in the sky is going to be the main focus here. So I'm going to put that on the horizon on the bottom third. Okay, I am going to crop out this area on the right here. So we've got our ratio selected, and we're going to crop out pretty tight to that boat there. I'm going to probably leave that little pink buoy in because most boats have them on, and I think it probably just adds to the photo a bit. And let's yeah, pretty happy with that. Yeah, the horizon. You see, I can move the horizon back up to that bottom line, but there's a bit of interesting chains or whatever they are at the bottom. I don't want those to be. I want those to be fully in the frame, so I'm going to move that down a bit there. It's all subjective. It's all what you like at the end of the day. And maybe I'm just going to move it slightly there, so the left, and let's move it, crop out slightly on the right. Okay, and then there we go. So that's the crop I'm going to work with. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So now my focus now is going to be on this sky. Okay, I'm going to use a graduated filter, and I'm going to reset everything back to 0. I have some presets, but I think for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm just going to start from scratch and show you what I will do, what I would do, creating the sky. So sky looks good. I can see that the sky has a nice glow to it. Obviously, you can we can change the sky. We can do a lot with the sky. I'm going to warm it up a lot, and I'm just going to make it a bit more dramatic as well. So I'm going to use this graduated filter, and I'm going to do it at a bit of an angle, so it kind of yeah, I'll make the feather pretty decent as well, decent size, so it blends in nicely. Okay, now if I reduce the exposure, you can see how the clouds are coming back, or the clouds are becoming more dramatic. I'm not going to get it. Let me reduce the exposure by half a stop to start off with. I can always come back. The contrast I'm going to increase. That adds a bit more drama as well to the sky. When I'm when I'm messing around with sliders, I like to go all the way and then all the way back, and I like to find you've less is more. You know, I used to go crazy and put all the sliders up to to 100, and but I've learned now that you know, you've got to try and keep you. It's a bit like being an artist, I suppose. You. I don't want to compare myself to an artist. I'm a photographer. I think they're very different, different forms of art. But so yeah, you've got to find your. Well, I suppose what I'm saying is, don't go too far. Okay, we'll leave it around there. I'm going to take the highlights down because that should darken the sky a bit. Probably not all the way again. Shadows. No, I'm going to leave the shadows. The shadows are not really going to change a lot. So yeah, we shall leave the shadows. Yeah. Again, the whites and blacks are probably going to be fine. I'll leave those. I might boost the clarity a bit. Again, if you go all the way, you can see just a bit. Just a bit. Don't go too far. The haze is interesting. That can also add a bit of drama to your photographs, as you can see. It's something that needs to be handled with care, I should say. So let's see what that looks like. 10. No, I'm going to just pop that down to 5. Right. So there we go. Let's have a look if I can do a before and after. There you go. Before and after. Now, I think what I'm going to do here is just reduce the exposure. Maybe a few steps there. Let's take it down to 0.8. Okay. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm happy with the exposure of the sky. You can see there's yellow. There's some nice yellow down here, and there's some blue here on the top left. And you find that in a lot of sunset. If you look at a sunset, you'll see the yellow lower down, and if you look up, it depends on the time of sunset. Of course, you may see some blue in the sky. So I do want to bring out both the orange and the blue, but again, just a bit. So right, okay. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to increase to warm things up, we're going to increase the temperature. I think in both cases I'm going to increase the temperature and the tint by 25 and just see how that looks there. Okay, let's press done just to have a look. Yes, I'm quite happy with that. Maybe it's a bit on the magenta side. So let's go back and let's just take that down to 20. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I am also going to do a radial filter in a moment, which we'll see why. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, what's also important to say or explain here is when you do these radial filters and graduated filters, you'll see that the boat has been affected as well. If I turn that off, look at the top of the boat here, and if I turn it off, you can see that it's affected the sky and the boat. Now, the beauty of Lightroom and the latest version, it has this great range mask on here, so you can mask your filter. I think in this case, I'm going to choose luminance. You can do it by color or luminance. I'm going to do luminance in this occasion. In a future video, I'm sure I'll be using the color option. So what I do here is I take my smoothers all the way down to 0. Okay. I hold down my Alt button and I increase my range here. Now basically, everything that's white will be affected by the filter, and everything that's black will not be. As you can see, the sky is white, which is great, and I'm just moving that up. Okay, I don't want the sky to lose out too much, so let's move that smoothness up a bit. Move that up to 10. Okay, and move that up, maybe 52. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. Let's have a look. So as you can see, the boat has been less affected by the filter. I think let's try and move that up slightly more. You'll have to bear with me because this is my first, no, sorry, I meant down, my first video. So we're going to go halfway. We're going to go to 50. There you go. It should be decent now. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so we have done the sky. Now, from time to time, it's good just to look at the photograph and just see if you're happy with it. So far, so good. I think I will make another slight change to the sky, but I'm going to, I'm going to put a radial filter in. Right. First of all, let's look at the. Let's go back to this. I just want to remember the range mask. We're looking at 50 and 10. Okay, I'll explain why I'm remembering that in a moment. Okay, so let's go to the graduated, sorry, the radial filter. No, the sky is here. Okay, so I'm going to reset everything, and I think everything's at 0 anyway. If you do want to reset, if your sliders are around the place, just double click on effect and everything goes back to 0 if you look. Okay, so let's draw a nice radial filter here with no adjustments whatsoever. Okay, doing a nice big one here, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, what I do with my feather is I generally increase that to around 75, 80. I'll come back to that in a minute and show you. So, okay, we're probably going to add another, make this filter even warmer. Okay, so 30 in here, and you can see that the doing is just making where the sun is a little bit warmer. It's a bit too magenta for me, so I'll increase the temperature here to 40 and decrease the magenta down here to +20. Yeah, okay, that's looking good. I think I'm also going to add a bit of a color cast here. Let's see how that affects things. Maybe move that a bit more towards the orange. Okay. Yeah, But the beauty is you can always come back and look and see what you've done and change it if you're not happy. It's fantastic. Now I'm wondering if I should if I do reduce the exposure a bit for the. Hmm, normally I would brighten a radial filter, but I quite like that. Maybe yeah. Let's try that. 65. Just again, less is more. Don't forget that. So I'm fine. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my range mask and remember the values that I put in before. Okay, because again, this filter has an effect on the boats. It's made the boats orange. So we're going to go to luminance, and we're going to, because I remembered the values from the graduated filter, we're going to increase that up to 50. Remember when we went 50, and the smoothness we're going to take down to 10 here. And the boats should be less orange. So let's have a look at a before and after. You can see it's just had a subtle effect on the sky. Okay, so there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I want, there's still some blue in the photograph on the top left, some sky blue, and I do want to emphasize that a bit. So we'll grab another graduated filter. Everything's just double click on effect just to reset everything again. And I'm going to make this quite a big feather. Just that blue there. And I'm going to move my temperature down. If I move it all the way down, you can see it's going to make that top left corner really cold. We call cold temperature in photography blue, and warm is orange, red. Anyway, that's far too, again, that's far too much. So I'm going to reduce this probably. Let's look at a -40 option there. Yeah, you can see it's a bit purple. So I'm gonna again, if you think it's purple, all you need to do is change the tint and make that a bit. Let's bring that down to -25 and see how that looks. More natural color, blue. Maybe I'm just going to bring this down here a bit more. Um, and just turn this slightly. Okay. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So we've got a bit of blue, we've got this nice orange glow as well coming from the sun. Again, time just to have a look and see where we're going and see if we're happy. And yeah, Barbara Jean there. We have Lily Man and don't know those names there. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I don't know if I talked about the clarity slider. It's something that I used to. I was quite a big fan of in the past. If I put it to 100%, you're going to see what it does. Well, now, okay, I think it just. I don't like it. It just makes it dirty. In my, I call it dirty, or I know I prefer my. Sometimes I will go to the left because it gives you, especially if I've got a misty morning shot or something, I might increase the or decrease the clarity. But in this photograph, I don't think I will use it. No, I'll leave it as that. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. I'm sure in my future tutorials I will be using the saturation and luminance and hue, but not for this one. Okay, I will be sharpening this image. Normally, I generally go up to about 90, and I will mask it as well. I just want to mask the outlines of the boats. I don't want to sharpen the sky. Obviously, the beach is going to be sharpened. There's not much I can do about that, but yeah, that's quite happy. Just the outlines of the boats. And with noise reduction, because I used ISO 1000, I am going to add a bit of noise reduction, just probably around 25. And that's about it. Okay, now, yeah. So, what to do next? Right, I'm happy with the photograph, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just make those boats pop a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to take the overall exposure of the photograph, global exposure, and reduce that down by half a stop. Okay. Okay. Now you might be wondering why I've done that. It's a bit dark now, but yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe I'll go down by 0.3 instead of half, just to give a little bit of. Sorry, the wrong way. Minus 0.3. Darken the overall image slightly. Okay, perfect. Now what I want to do is I want to make these boats pop out a little bit. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my radial filter here. I'm going to reset everything, and I'm just going to give half a stop of exposure. And we shall have a look on Barbara Jean and use the radial filter. There you are. With half a stop of exposure. And I just want Barbara to pop a bit. Okay. I am going to do my feather trick. I think you know, I want the filter to have as little impact on the overall photograph as possible. So I like to increase my feather size. So oh no, that's okay. Again, I'm going to use my range mask and use those settings because I don't want it to have an effect on the sky. And I'll go to 50 as we did before and drop the smoothness down to 10, I think it was. So the effect will, oh, of course, my mistake. It's affecting the sky and not the boat, so we're going to have to go the other way around, okay? We want the boat to be affected and not the sky. So I'm going to have to bring in the range from the high value this time. If I hold down the Alt key and bring that down to the high value down to 50, you can see that it's what is going to be affected is in white, and yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It's going to affect the boat and not the sky. So if I let go, you will see, hopefully, there you go. I'm going to, right, I'll do the same thing for E249 next door. Duplicate the filter and drag it across to E249. I did duplicate it, okay. All right, it's not as big, so we use the size of the radio filter. It's fine. And I think for these 4 boats on the right, we'll just use one filter for them all. Let's put that in the middle here. Okay, and again, these are just pretty subtle changes. less is, I keep saying this, less is more. I've been so guilty in the past of going overboard. And if you do lots of small adjustments, but fairly minor, you tend to get better results at the end of the day. I might increase, oh, the exposure is 0.5. Okay. Okay. And okay, so let's have a look if I turn these off and on. Okay, so there you go. We just made the boats pop a bit. So there we go. Let's go back. Now I'm going to go back to the original image that we had. There you go. And after the adjustments, we have that. Okay. So I really don't have a lot, much more to do. I think I'm going to just put a glow on the front here, just to enhance the beach a little bit. So I'll use a radial filter and reset everything. Put a nice glow here, I think. Yeah, my feather, I'll put it 80 again, and I'll just increase the exposure here. I think that's all I'm going to do. Just to put a nice, there you go. I think one stop's a bit too much. Let's try 0.75. 0.5. Yeah, just a bit of a glow on front here. On the front here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that because I've just noticed something that I want to put a bit of emphasis on as well. Just not there. I just want to put a bit of a glow on the little feature down here on the bottom left. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Now, I think finally what I'll do for this photograph is just put a bit of post-cropping vignetting on it, just to draw the viewer's eyes into the subjects, into the boat itself, and just to give a little bit of a slight more contrast into the photograph on the edges. Now, please don't do this, okay? Don't do that. Well, you can. As I said earlier, it's entirely up to you. You can do what you want, but I think for me, the post-cropping vignetting, it's about drawing the viewer's eyes into the subject, okay, without them even knowing, if that makes sense, okay. So I rarely go above 20. I might go to 20, 25, 22. And of course, you can move the midpoint and the roundness and the feather. But in this case, I think I'll just leave it. I think maybe that's even a bit too much. I'm going to just take it back a bit, just 16. And let's have a look. If I turn it off, I'll turn it back on. I think my earlier on-off switches, I was pressing the wrong one. Anyway, so there you go. I've done the post-cropping vignetting, and okay, I'm looking at a photograph again. Sometimes I will look at my wall or look at the. Sometimes I'll even go for make a cup of tea or something, and I'll come back and look at it, and I'll think, okay, am I happy with it? Happy with the crop? Am I happy with the white balance? I don't want this tutorial to go on forever, but that gives you a rough idea of what I do with a photograph. Yeah, well, hope you enjoyed that. Um, I'll be back soon with another video. So okay, see you soon. Bye.